like, what am I doing? And I need help. I can't do this on my own. And so I texted my boss, Dave at iHeart Media, and I was like, hey man, I need help. I'm going to rehab. I can't do this. I need help. And he shot me back a text and said, good luck, man. And don't worry, we're here for you, and let us know if you need anything, but just get better, man. And took off that next morning. So I came to Michigan because I didn't have family in Arkansas or anything like that. So I went to Michigan where I knew I could be around people that had my best interest, at heart. So I remember I drove that next morning and I only made it 3 hours to Springfield, Missouri. And I was detoxing so bad. I couldn't quit shaking. In my liver, it wasn't processing the alcohol. I was sick as a dog and just shaking. And I pulled over in Springfield and I thought, I need something to eat. And I got a hotel room and I got a 6-pack and I thought, okay, well, I'll just nurse this down. I know I'm not supposed to, but I need to do something. That next morning I took off and was going to finish the trip, which would have been a 9-hour drive from Springfield to Coloma, Michigan. And I made it almost through Illinois, and that's when I had a panic attack. And I didn't know what was going on. I had never had one before. And it just so happened that as I was having it, the phone rang, and it was my mother. And I answered it, and I was like, Mom, I don't know what's going on. I'm dying. I'm going to die on this road right now. Like, I am going to die, And she's like, oh my God, honey, you're having a panic attack. I'm like, I don't know what, And I remember the last thing before, like, it just went crazy was I was listening to this commercial about tacos or something, and they were having these little taco characters, and they were like, oh yeah, I remember. And that's like thing I know, it's like times 1,000 volume level, and it was just all in my head, and it was I didn't know what to do, and it felt like I was gonna die right then on that road. And my mom convinced me to pull over and get off, the freeway and find a little place to go. And I don't remember where I don't know if it was like a stone quarry or something, but they had like big old thing, and I just pulled. I didn't care who saw me. I didn't care if I was in somebody's parking spot, which I kind of wasn't. And I didn't know if the alcohol was still in my system enough to where I would get a drunk driving. It had been that night before since I drank, but my body it wasn't processing the alcohol, so it would still be in my system, which is really creepy and weird. But so I was just like, man, I don't know. My mom called my cousin, and my cousin agreed to go to Chicago because I was like, man, there's no way in hell I can drive through Chicago right now. And so they agreed to meet me outside of Chicago, where I think it was like 55 or 57 and 90, 80 or something like that meet. And so they drove me the rest of the way. And I remember we went to Cracker Barrel, my mom's favorite. And I couldn't even pick up a spoon because I had corn, and I was like, I can't touch that spoon because I'm going to be shaking. And my mom looked at me and she was like, honey, it's okay. Just eat your corn. And I did, but I always felt so embarrassed and just defeated when I would shake so bad that I couldn't even hold a spoon. Just not a good time in my life. And just the fact that I was lucky enough to have people like that in my life, like my mom and my cousin, that would come, and get me and to bring me back to get help. Not everybody has that. And I'm very thankful, and I'm lucky, and I understand that, and I know that. But when I finally did get back there, that's when the not so much fun began. I was Googling treatment centers and stuff like that, and when you do that, all you get mostly are ad agencies who are going to direct you to wherever they get paid the most, money. And it took me a few minutes to figure that out. And when I was calling, you're telling your story over and over, and that gets old, and, the tears and the crying, and you're talking to somebody on the phone, and they're saying that they care. And I don't know. It was brutal. It took me like 2 weeks to finally talk to somebody. And then this guy claimed to be a rehab placement specialist, and he kept guaranteeing me that he wasn't going to get any money from it. And I was like, bro, I don't care if you're getting any money from it. Just send me to a nice place. And I looked up this place that he was going to send me to, and he's like, look, they'll pay. They're going to buy your flight. You don't have to pay anything. Okay. He's like, you got really good insurance through iHeartMedia, so just show up at the airport. You promised me to show up. I'm like, yeah. They're like, okay, well, I got your ticket, and as long as you complete the program, they'll fly you back, and you won't have to pay anything. And I already pulled out my 401k. So, because this other place in Oregon was like, oh, we need like $9,000 or $10,000. I'm like, okay. So I pulled all that out, and I was like, all right, cool. And I have some money to kind of live on for a minute, or if I need anything. So, but yeah, I didn't even need it. So I went out to California, and I looked on the website before, and I'm like, oh, this place looks nice. And I get out there to Palm Springs, which to me, Palm Springs, California, not a big fan. Have you ever been there?
No.
There's this mountain. It's just, to me, it's depressing because it's like, oh, Frank Sinatra used to live here. Yeah, that's a long time ago, man. And it's hot as hell in the summer. And then you just look over and you see this big ass mountain. That's it. Like, can you imagine? It's like that thing outside of our bedroom window. We have like this big blue, I don't know if it keeps water.
It's a water, yeah.
Bodies, I don't know. But imagine that times a billion, and that's all you saw. Just, oh, there's that mountain there. Yeah, still there. I don't know. That would be depressing for me. But anyway, I get to the place, and it was the first time, being in treatment. I walk in, which was weird to me because the people were smoking in the office. And I think I was still smoking at that time, just about ready to quit. And so I'm like, oh, that's weird. They're smoking inside. It's something new. In California, I thought they weren't big fans of smoking, but I thought, okay, well, whatever. I go outside, the guy throws me my blanket and pillow and sheet and says, you know how to make a bed, right? And I'm like, well, yeah. He's like, well, then go make your bed. Here's your room. And I go in, it's dirty. There's blood stain on the little ass mattress. And I mean, not just a little blood. I mean, it was like somebody was murdered there. Like, seriously, like it was all male. So it wouldn't have been a female there. So I'm not sure where the blood came from. And it was a lot of it. So I was like, what the? So I'm like, you know what, Corey, you did this to yourself. So make your damn bed. And so I did. And I laid there and just kept thinking, like, I don't know, man. Like, I don't know. And there's supposed to be 2 other people in the room. And it was like a long, narrow room. And I just thought, man, I don't think so. I go outside to smoke, and this dude comes up, and he's like, hey, man, can I get a cigarette? And I was like, absolutely. Just don't touch my pee-pee and my booty hole, and
God.
I'm good. So gave that to him, and then I just realized, I'm like, I don't feel comfortable here. It is not as advertised. This is not what the pictures look like. So then I go in, I'm like, I don't think I can do it here. The guy's like, what do you mean? I'm like, wow, this isn't what the pictures look like. This isn't what I was sold on coming here, And I'm pretty upset, And the guy's like, well, welcome to rehab, you think it's going to be like fancy sheets and blood. And I'm like, no, but I didn't expect blood stain, And so they're just like, all right, well, if you don't want to be here, then get out. I'm like, well, can you call me a cab? They're like, nope. Here's your phone. So I just walk outside. I'm like, all right, man, appreciate it. Called the taxi, and then I went to a hotel. And I was really surprised, looking back, that I didn't drink at that hotel. Mm-hmm. And I got in charge of the rehab placement specialist. Told him he sucked. Oh, I've never heard that about that place. I'm like, well, maybe you should drive down there and check it out, man. I was like, it's horrible. And he's like, well, I've got another place, and after like 3 days, got a place in L.A. we can send you. We'll put you there, So I went to L.A., and it wasn't as bad at all. It was actually pretty nice. It's just I didn't know about addiction. I just thought drinking. And so I start meeting people who have, one guy was addicted to heroin, another guy was addicted to meth, another guy in the house that I was staying in, he was also a drinker. So we had a lot in common, him and I, but I stayed there like a week or a week and a half maybe. And we started going, like they would bus us, or not bus us, but we'd jump in a van in this little ass van and drive across town. It took forever. And we would get to this building, we'd go do groups. And the only good thing about that is the women would come there too. And we'd be like, hey, and that's when I realized, I don't want to be a part of these women here. And it's nothing against them. It's just, I need to get myself straight and they need to get themselves straight for sure. But we would go to groups and, I remember them saying all addictions are the same. And I thought, as I'm talking to the guys that I'm staying with, I'm like, there's a lot more I had in common with, the guy who was using heroin and even the guy that, was using meth, it's like, okay, I kind of can see where you're going there. I get it. And until we went to the sex addiction and we just kind of looked at each other, me and the guy that was drinking, because we were in the same group and we had to go in there and we're just kind of looking at each other like, oh Jesus, like I don't have a problem with this. Like, I don't know. Like maybe I'm addicted to sex. I like it, but oh no, like the stories we heard, we can't on here and I'm not going to tell them here today. I know people are like, oh damn, no, seriously, you don't want to hear these stories. And we were just like, oh my God, like we looked at each other and I stood up and I walked out and was like, that's not for me. I was like, this isn't for me. If I have to sit through another one of those, this is for me. Like I'm better than that, and looking back now, I was naive and I was early in it and I just didn't know any better, but those people are sick too, and clearly after what they were saying, they had some issues, and that's where the mental health part of it, comes into play, where a lot of people, especially early, and if you don't understand it or you're just new to the game, like you don't understand, like the mental part is what gets you, like physically alcohol will make you, like I said, shaken and, physically it has its problems and it takes its toll, but the mental part of it is every single part of it, in my opinion, as far as keeping you sick. Until you address that, you might as well just keep, I don't know, like it has to be addressed at some point. Sure, to not drink is great, to not use drugs. Sure, alcohol is a drug, but, to not use is great. You got to start somewhere, but you also have to start training your mind, how you think. If you go to a rehab and think, oh, this is going to be horrible, probably going to be horrible. Mm-hmm. But if you can go in it with a mindset of, at least I'm not laying in my bed, getting up every 10 minutes to dry heave, making Kool-Aid just so I can puke it up, because that feels better than dry heaving. Like, this got to be better than that. Try to think positive however you go into treatment. And not everybody has to go into treatment either. This is something that I kind of wanted to talk about, because a lot of people think that, just let me go to rehab. And you go to rehab, and sometimes you do it for a spouse or, a family member or whatever. Maybe your work sends you, whatever, but you're doing it for somebody else. But when you go to rehab, you think, oh yeah, it's going to fix me. And you get there and you realize, no, it's not. Mm-hmm. I mean, you're going to learn tools and they'll tell you that. And it depends how you look at it. It's a lot of work, or it can be a lot of fun, or it can be a combination of both. But it's very interesting. I like learning about the brain and the way people think. And so for me, it's interesting, when I would go to groups and they would show how different drugs affected the mind, and they explained why we do what we do and why our brain is so fixated on having that drink, or why it was so hard for me to think I could never drink again. Are you kidding? I could never drink again? Never? Ever? How about in 5 years? I'll drink 5 years. Then I'll be fine. Because people will forget that I even had a problem. Like my brain would work that way. And until I was like ready, I guess I could say, shut the door on it for good and just lock it and throw away the key, and like, I don't want to go in that room anymore. Nothing in there for me. Until I was ready to do that, I wasn't totally ready. And it's a process. And if people are on that road to closing that door, support them. And sometimes that door kicks right back open and hits you right in the face. And unfortunately, that's a part of it for some people. The people that use heroin, opiates, like that's dangerous, because just as I go right back in